of the constant moaning and the drama, so she had to flee. And can you blame her? Can you really blame her? Because Doria Ragland has stayed massively loyal to Meghan.
The saga surrounding the Montecito mansion has taken a turn so dramatic, so laden with tension and unanswered questions, that it feels less like a chapter in a royal biography and more like the climax of a psychological thriller. The narrative that has been carefully curated for public consumption is reportedly crumbling from the inside out.
Or a lesson in gaslighting, or whether Meghan Markle has absolutely lost her mind. Or maybe it is the fact that she's able to get away over and over and over by flaunting her lies, most serious lies.
Beginning with the one person whose loyalty was thought to be unshakable. It appears that even Doria Ragland, a mother who has stood as a pillar of silent support through the storm of media scrutiny and family estrangement, reached a breaking point that compelled her to flee. The atmosphere within those walls, described by insiders as a suffocating blend of constant moaning and manufactured drama, eventually became too heavy to bear.
Her mom to care for her kids, and sources tell us even her own mother got so sick of her constant moaning and drama she had to flee the luxury home. Insiders say Ragland's departure has left Markle 43 and Prince Harry 40 struggling to adjust without.
And when you peel back the layers of what allegedly transpired, the question isn't why she left, but rather, how she managed to stay for as long as she did. Doria has long been perceived as the ultimate ally, the one constant in Meghan Markle's tumultuous life when bridges were being burned with the rest of her family.
A difficult patch, marked by professional setbacks and personal challenges. That's the understatement of the year. The tight-knit mother-daughter bond strengthened during this.
Yet, reports suggest that behind the closed doors of the luxury estate, the dynamic was far from the harmonious picture painted for the world. Sources indicate that Doria found herself trapped in a cycle of misery, subjected to an environment so toxic that her departure became a necessity for her own well-being.
Some time that things aren't great between Meghan Markle and her own mother, Doria Ragland. She has been completely miserable in the last couple of public appearances that the fake Duchess forced on her. Meghan Markle howled, "Don't leave me," as her mother, Doria Ragland, moved out of her and her hen-pecked husband, Prince Harry's Montecito mansion. RadarOnline.com can reveal.
The breaking point, it seems, was not a singular explosive event but the sheer exhaustion of dealing with a daughter who, according to insiders, has become consumed by her own narrative. In the final moments before Doria made her exit, moving out of the home she shared with Meghan and her husband, Prince Harry, the scene was reportedly heart-wrenching and chaotic. Meghan is said to have howled, "Don't leave me," a desperate plea from a woman who perhaps realized that her last true emotional anchor was cutting loose.
Maybe she says them over and over. She will convince herself and manage to convince idiots that still give her a platform that she didn't.
But Doria, despite the guilt that often binds mothers to their children, had to prioritize her own peace. She had been used, sources claim, not just as a mother and a grandmother, but as a prop in a public relations strategy, and the toll it took was visible to everyone around them. However, Doria's dramatic exit is merely the catalyst for a much darker and more perplexing conversation that has begun to circulate among those who have stepped foot inside the Sussex sanctuary. The most shocking secret hiding within the Montecito mansion might not be about the fractured relationships between adults, but about the children, Archie and Lilibet. The rumors didn't start with a leaked document or a disgruntled relative selling a story to the tabloids. They began, quite chillingly, with a whisper inside the house itself. According to sources familiar with the situation, there was a moment that stopped conversations cold, a moment where Doria herself allegedly leaned in during a private exchange and asked a question that no grandmother should ever have to ask: "What are Archie and Lilibet like? I've never really seen them." This singular, haunting inquiry has opened the floodgates to a torrent of skepticism and confusion. It suggests a reality that is fundamentally at odds with the glossy magazines and carefully edited documentaries. How could a live-in grandmother, a woman celebrated for her closeness to her daughter, effectively be a stranger to her own grandchildren? The implications are staggering, leading some to wonder if the public is being subjected to a masterclass in gaslighting. Is it possible that the narrative of a happy, bustling family life is nothing more than a smoke and mirror act? The skepticism is fueled by the fact that Meghan has seemingly weathered controversy after controversy, often by simply ignoring the discrepancies in her stories. But this particular discrepancy, the physical presence and daily reality of the children, is one that cannot be easily swept aside. Former household staff have begun to shed light on what life was truly like inside the walls of the estate, and their accounts are deeply unsettling. One staffer, who claims to have worked long, grueling shifts of 12 hours a day, 5 days a week, describes the mansion not as a home, but as a stage set. When you work in a private residence, you develop an intimate familiarity with its rhythm. You know which floorboards creak, which rooms get the best light, and where the family congregates to unwind. Yet, this staffer asserts that despite spending more waking hours there than in her own apartment, the house never developed a pulse. It remained cold, sterile, and eerily perfect. The description of the interior borders on the uncanny. Cushions were allegedly aligned with a geometric precision that suggested they were never sat upon. Surfaces gleamed with a spotless shine that wasn't the result of cleanliness, but of disuse. Kitchens, usually the heart of a home where messes are made and meals are shared, looked prepared for an architectural photo shoot rather than a family dinner. Bedrooms felt decorative, devoid of the personal clutter that signifies human habitation. According to this account, nothing was ever out of place because nothing was ever used. There was no evidence of routines forming, no coffee cups left on side tables, no mail piled on the counter. It was a house waiting to be observed, not a place where life unfolded. For the staff member, the most troubling aspect of the sterility was the silence. Homes with young children are defined by their acoustic footprint, the patter of feet, the sudden cries, the laughter, the noise of toys being dragged across the floor. It is an energy that permeates the walls. But in Montecito, the silence was heavy and constant. It was a stillness that forced you to lower your voice instinctively, a quiet so profound that it felt oppressive. The staffer recalls pausing in rooms, expecting to hear something, anything, that would indicate a child was present. She listened for the unmistakable soundtrack of childhood, the echoes down the hallways or the footsteps of a toddler. But she claimed she never heard a single sound. The silence remained unbroken, constant, and deeply unsettling. At first, the staffer rationalized the absence. Perhaps the children were on a walk, perhaps they were napping in a different wing, perhaps they were with nannies elsewhere. But as days turned into weeks and weeks into months, the excuse wore thin. The house remained pristine and strangely untouched. It didn't feel like a sanctuary where a young family was growing, it felt like a vacuum. Eventually, the cognitive dissonance became impossible to ignore. One afternoon, the staffer quietly asked another employee if they had ever actually seen the children. The response was a simple, chilling shake of the head and a whispered, "Never." That single word hung in the air, confirming that the unease wasn't an individual paranoia but a shared, silent realization among the staff. The timeline of these claims makes them even more disturbing. This wasn't a temporary situation observed over a few days. This was allegedly the status quo over months of employment, from sunrise to sunset. Staff moved freely throughout the house, opening doors and cleaning rooms, yet the children remained invisible. Outside the gates, the world believed a story of Archie and Lilibet growing up happily, shielded from the public eye for their own protection. But inside, the people paid to maintain the home were asking themselves a fundamental question: where were they?